Welcome to Who Yelling Now, Season 4, Episode 4, titled Trama with a UPC code. Copyright Mackenzie. There's a strange thing that happens to pain. Once it becomes visible, once it becomes shared, once it becomes something people can watch. It starts to circulate. It moves through screens, through headlines, through documentaries, through posts and hashtags. And somewhere along the way, pain becomes content. Not all pain, just the kind that can travel. Some stories of suffering go everywhere. They're shared, amplified, discussed. They get campaigns, fundraisers, awareness months. They become part of the cultural conversations. And then there are other pains. Pain that barely makes a ripple. Pain that disappears quietly. Pain that never trends. Pain that doesn't get documentaries. Pain that doesn't get sympathy wrapped around it. And the difference isn't how real it is. The difference is how consumable it is. Here is a story I call Until There Is Nothing Left. There's a kind of pain that doesn't travel well. It doesn't fit in a post. It doesn't end with hope. It doesn't come with a lesson. It just sits there, heavy, unresolved. I remember being asked once, almost jokingly, if I even knew what real poverty looked like. I remember the sarcasm in the voice of the person who asked. Like suffering was a concept, like it was something you could measure. I didn't answer right away because what I saw, what I experienced, didn't feel like something I was allowed to share. Not because it wasn't real, because it was too real. Once, years ago, on a day like so many other days, I was walking down a street. The sun bright. People were laughing. Cars passing. Life was normal. Until it wasn't. A person stood near the road. A woman. I could tell as I drew closer. Human, I guess, as I saw her eyes. Not a symbol. Not a statistic. A woman. She was thin, painfully so. It was as if the word would lose its definition if not applied to her. Her eyes were tired. They did not look tired. They were. Parts of her body were missing. Not hidden. Not gone. She wasn't asking for food. She wasn't asking for clothes. She was asking for money, begging earnestly for whatever I could spare. Her voice was barely rose above the street noise. Everything in me wanted to help. I reached forward, but someone pulled me back harshly and guided me away into a restaurant, into comfort. They told me to look across the street at the man standing quietly in the shade, watching, waiting, not angry, patient, like owners waiting on inventory. I was told she didn't keep the money, that each week she had to bring back a certain amount, and when she didn't, something was taken. Usually first, they take her children, then her clothes, then parts of her body. Slowly, until nothing was left to take. And when nothing was left, they said she was released. I remember feeling sick, not just sad, physically sick, because helping her meant feeding the people hurting her, and not helping meant watching her suffer. There was no good choice. Only different kinds of wrong. I sat there staring at food I couldn't eat, knowing pain was happening outside, just outside that door. Not a story, not for awareness, just happening. And I realized this kind of suffering doesn't circulate. It doesn't trend. It doesn't inspire. It doesn't end neatly. It doesn't let people feel like they did something. So it disappears. Then I thought about all the other pain like that. The missing women, the abused children, the communities trapped in systems that feed on them, the trauma without resolution. This is the suffering that doesn't sell. Not because it isn't real, because it asks too much of us. It asks us to sit with discomfort, to feel powerless, to question systems. This is the pain that disappears when trauma becomes content. It enters the market and markets sort. Some pain circulates, some pain fades. Not by severity, by performance. Pain that travels usually has a clear villain, a clear victim, a clean arc, a hopeful ending. It allows empathy without responsibility. But pain tied to systems, pain without resolution, pain that disrupts comfort, that kind doesn't circulate well. So, trauma gets labeled. Too graphic, too political, too complex, way too much. Which usually means this pain destabilizes, and destabilization doesn't sell. Here is a poem to unsettle the mind, titled Pain, Pain, Your Pain? Pain, pain, go away, leave here, don't ever stay. If you're too real, you might steal my attention from the fluff of the day. Pain, pain, take a seat. You don't fit in this pretty feed. You're too messy, too loud, too deep. We like our stories light and neat. Pain, pain, change your mind, change your tone, make it softer, make it known, make it kind. With a hero, a win, a happy end, so we can feel good and then move on. Pain, pain, if you won't behave, if you won't fit the frame we gave, we'll scroll past you, fade you out, act like we never heard you shout. Pain, pain, keep it cute, keep it short, keep it mute, make it neat, make it sweet. Give me something I can easily shoot, post, share, like, repeat. Pain, pain, go away. Come back when you're easier to play. My friends, not all trauma disappears. Some just doesn't sell. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When pain becomes content, awareness becomes the product. Feeling becomes the end point. Watching replaces action. And the trauma that challenges power, history, and comfort gets less space, less funding, less storytelling. So, we live in a world where some suffering is everywhere and some suffering is nowhere. Not because one matters more, because one fits the marketplace better. And the trauma that circulates becomes memory. The trauma that doesn't disappear. This is how suffering becomes selective. This is how history gets shaped by what people are willing to consume. My dearest listeners, next episode, we'll talk about what happens when memory moves into digital space. when platforms and algorithms decide what survives? How will you be remembered? This has been Who Yelling Now? See you in the next episode.